Peter Kursk is a professor of history and director of the Nuclear Studies Institute at American University, is now joining us live from Washington, D.C. Professor Kursk, thank you very much for your time and good to see you. Do you foresee or predict an even tougher winter for Ukraine?
Yes, I see a very, very tough winter for Ukraine. Most recently, the Russians have not been hitting the energy infrastructure, but they could begin hitting that at any point. And we know that Ukraine's energy infrastructure is very, very weak already. So they could be seeing blackouts 20 hours a day of electricity and heat in the during the winter months. And it's a very cold winter in Ukraine. So I'm afraid the Ukrainians are in for a very hard time.
Professor Kursk, Russia has expanded its offensive. We are reporting that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's hometown was targeted. Russia seems more aggressive this time around. What's the message here?
The message is that Russia is uncertain what the new Trump presidency is going to bring, but there is going to be pressure to start the negotiations soon. So both sides are trying to strengthen, to fortify their positions as much as possible before those negotiations begin. So Russia wants to take the entirety of Donetsk. Pokrovsk is really in their line of sight right now, but before they can take Pokrovsk, they want to take as many of the surrounding villages as possible. So that's what they're doing, the Donbass. They're also trying to claw back as much territory as they possibly can in Kursk. So we see a two-front offensive by the Russians. They're moving rapidly in the east, and they're beginning to move rapidly in Kursk as well.
Professor Kursk, this is a question that we've been asking so many people. What do you expect Trump will do when he enters office? Because one, he's spoken to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who says the discussion was excellent. There were reports that he might have spoken to Vladimir Putin, but the Kremlin dismissed those reports, saying that they are cautious on speaking to Trump. What do you foresee happening in the next 2 months?
Well, Trump is a wild card. We don't know what he's going to do. He's spoken like a peacemaker when it comes to Ukraine, but you look at his initial appointments, and they are hardliners. They're far more hawkish than Trump is. So we've got Mike Waltz as National Security Advisor, and we've got Marco Rubio as Secretary of State. So we've got the first two positions announced, and it's likely that Rogers might become Secretary of Defense. So all of them are to the right, or more hawkish and militaristic than Trump is, and they've also been more outspoken in defense of Ukraine. So, but Trump is going to have the final say. And so the Russians, not knowing what to anticipate, nor the Ukrainians knowing what to anticipate, both sides are increasing their fighting to get a better negotiating position if the negotiations begin soon. So over the next 2 months, I just see more intensified fighting. The number of drones that each side is launching are really reaching record proportions right now. But the Russians have the Ukrainians outmanned, outgunned, outmaneuvered. So I don't see much prospect for Ukraine holding its current line. I think in 2 months, Russia will occupy more of Ukraine. There'll be more casualties, and the pressure for a negotiated settlement is going to intensify.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. I've been talking to Professor of History and Director of the Nuclear Studies Institute at American University, Professor Peter Kursk. As always, thank you very much for talking to us today.